It's time for the Internet's premier restoration business podcast. Let's go with Gokul-The, a thoughtful listen on creating your business legacy. Your leading source for selling your restoration business. And now your host and America's #1 restoration reseller with over $500 million in restoration businesses sold. Here's Gokul-The.
Hey everybody, I'm Gokul, the CEO of Restoration Brokers of America. Welcome to our very first podcast. Let's go. And I have a really personal friend of mine, one of the smartest people that I know. Now I can talk about her resume for days, but let me just read a little bit about Mary Tomlinson. All right. Mary has about 40 years as a consultant and a coach. She's owned her own business, On Purpose Partners, for over 20 years, providing organizational culture, leadership, team building, customer service consulting, personal and executive coaching. Here's a personal plug. She's been my executive coach for years. All right. She's also spent 18 years at the Walt Disney World Company as an executive, coaching teams of 8 to 800 in brand marketing, Disney's internal advertising agency, and is a director of the former Disney Institute. So Mary, welcome.
Thanks, Gokul. This is going to be so much fun.
So tell me a little bit about, just talking a little bit before the podcast started, the company culture, everybody knows it's important. It's like a vitamin. Everybody knows you need to do it, but very few people do it. And recently in our industry, company culture and talent acquisition has become to the forefront, because of COVID and the Great Resignation. So let's start with just a basic question. What is company culture?
Okay. So I've always loved when I think about company culture. So if your very best friend was thinking about joining you at your company, and so because it's your very best friend, you're going to be very transparent with them. And if they say, tell me what it's really like to work there, not the marketing copy, not what's on the website, what's it really like to work there? The response to that question is what company culture is. And just this morning on LinkedIn, I saw this great quote by Bill Marklein that says, culture is how an employee's heart and stomach feels about Monday morning on a Sunday night. All right. So if you think about, I'm going to work tomorrow, and this is what it's really like to work there. That's what culture is. And so it is, sometimes we have to pull it out because at an executive level, we have an idea of what we want it to be or what the website copy says it is. But true company culture is like what it's really like to work there. What is recognized, the types of people who get promoted, what are they like? What are the behaviors they exhibit? What are the true values of the company? What's really important? That's company culture.
Wow, what a powerful way to start. There's so much we can unpack with just that, what you said. So, we walk into companies, right? And there's always got the vision and the mission and things of that sort. But what you're saying is that may not be the reality that your team is experiencing.
That's right. That's right. It's so funny. There's two very contemporary examples of this going on right now. So I'm sure you've heard about Elon Musk taking over Twitter. All right. So he sent out an email to someone asking them who was willing to commit to an extremely hardcore work ethic, and if they weren't, to leave the company. He also purchased staff beds at Twitter headquarters, okay, but insists he's just helping tired employees. So he is articulating a true company culture, all right? You know what you can expect when you go there. And the other great example recently is from Disney. Obviously, I keep track of what's happening there. And Bob Iger just came back to leave the company. And he said something interesting that he said, he was realizing that the company was losing its soul. And so that's company culture. The soul of the Disney company is creative. Yes, it is also financial, but he was sensing that the company was losing its soul. So now he's back. So it's interesting to me how different those two examples are, but it is what the true culture is like to work there. So you know what you're getting into if you work there.
So we talk about the company soul. Let's dive into that a little bit, right? How would one go about, as an owner, truly understanding what it is? Because we drive around, we're busy, we're running around doing things, and we think it is this, right? Or we want it to be a certain way, right? But how do we go truly go finding out what is it in reality?
You said two things there that are really important. I mean, I would say there's a lot of executives that haven't even really articulated in their mind what they want it to be. So I think first is, as an owner, to think about, what do I want the culture of this organization to be? All right. Elon Musk has articulated what he wants it to be. Bob Iger has articulated what he wants it to be. So to first state, this is what I want it to be like. This is what I want it to be like to work here. Are we going to be a competitive organization or a collaborative organization? Are people free to speak up, or do they have to follow organizational protocols? What's the level of trust I want to build in the company? So it's important for an owner, a leader, to say, this is what I want. And then, to your point, is to start digging in. And I would dig in based on kind of the leadership organizational structures. So I would say to my leaders, what is great about our culture? What should we keep? What should we leave behind? What is not so great about our culture? If we were to improve something about our culture, what should we improve? I hope organizations are doing exit interviews when people leave the company, to really kind of dig into what was really going on. What are people really experiencing? There is, and again, a lot of times I'll do a lot of work with organizations to kind of, as the outside consultant, come in and do surveys and ask people what it's really like to work there, what they love and what they don't love. But I think even on an informal basis, you can talk to leadership, you can talk to management, and start to get a sense. Hopefully you have developed an organization where people feel free to tell you. If they're not, that's going to be an indication about your culture right there, that people don't feel free to really tell you the truth. So it's starting to dig into and being open to opportunities to improve as a culture based on what you as a leader want it to be.
Someone may be listening to this and saying, why is the soul of a company even important, right? So there's the other extreme where people say, it's financial related, it's P&Ls. I don't have any interest in dealing with. Maybe I'm uncomfortable dealing with people. It's not black and white. There's a certain skill set that goes with creating great cultures. What would you say to someone like that? Why does companies even need a soul and a great culture?
Well, if you want people to stay in your company and be really happy working there, this is an important topic. I saw a quote from the Society of HR Management, which is SHRM is their acronym. The cost of turnover because of workplace culture exceeded $223 billion in the last 5 years in the US alone. That would tell me, as a leader, I need to know what my culture is. I need to improve my culture. This is turnover based on culture. We all know about organizations we have worked with or departments we have worked with where it's a really great, creative, energizing culture. And we all know we've been in cultures that have been toxic, where we don't want to go there on a Monday morning. We just endure. We just put our head down. We're not giving 100%, and we're probably looking for the next opportunity to quit as soon as we can. So it's an important topic, particularly, as you said, in this great resignation, where if people aren't feeling valued and they're not feeling like the organization is a place they can thrive, they're going to go somewhere else, and we're going to lose really good people.
Right. I can tell you, I know we were just chatting before we started recording. We saw numbers, especially during COVID in the last, say, 2.5 years or so, right? We are in a unique place and within restoration. We're seeing how companies are run from coast to coast. And we've seen this, okay, where companies that accidentally or intentionally, had good cultures where it was, let's just call it a reasonably good place and a pleasant place to work, and people were reasonably happy and, things of that sort. They didn't get that decimated with the great resignation, right? And we saw their numbers and their performance of the company overall maybe dip a little, but came back up very, very strong, right? And then we saw companies where, 40% of their workforce quit when they can. And they had the jobs, but they had nobody to do them. So I think our industry is learning the importance of culture, right? And how to do it. So let's dive into it. We kind of talked about why is it important. So let's break it down. What is company culture in concrete terms? Let's break it down for us.
Okay. So it's thinking about, if you had to articulate the true values of your company, again, I think the shift that was happening in Disney was that creativity was being kind of left in the dust and the value became more financial. And so then people just know, okay, it's just all about the dollar. That's it. That's all they care about. So what are the true values? As I mentioned earlier, when I look at who gets promoted in this company, what are the behaviors of those leaders? Because that's giving me an indication of what's really important. What gets recognized? What gets coached? Again, can I truly speak up in a meeting and disagree with my leader, or is that frowned upon? Should I just be quiet? It's how we work, and we all, as human beings, kind of get a sense of, okay, this is how it works around here. This is how I survive. This is how I thrive if I can. And I will tell you, even in my Disney days, there were some departments that I was in where the culture was different. Culture is driven by the leader. So I could sense really quickly in different departments, okay, that's how it works around here. So it really, you're wanting people to feel valued and the ability to express even a difference of opinion, that creativity is great, and mistakes. How does the company handle mistakes? Is it the death sentence, or is it okay? And we learn from it and we move forward. All of those things together tell me what it's really like to work there, and in how you survive and thrive. And all of us as humans want to be in a place where we feel we can contribute, and we're all going to make mistakes, and that's okay. And we're valued. I mean, our leaders can say, I value you. And then everything they do and say to us says, not really. So understanding what it's like to work there, how positive and contributing and collaborative is the culture really? Or at the end of the day, is it dog eat dog and all about the numbers and you better not make a mistake?
So you can see when we look at some companies, they seem to just attract high talent, right? And then when I talk to some owners, they're always recruiting, correct? Because the team is never filled, right? There's just so much attrition, so many people going in and out and in and out and in and out. So, are there any particular, this may be a generalized statement, but are there any basic needs that most of your team as a leader you got to meet? One is, you said you got to value your employees and you got to show them you value. Are there any, in your research and in your experience, are there any basic, here's the top five that most teams are looking for?
Well, as an individual going into a company, all right, first of all, your current employees are your biggest marketing advocates or not. All right. So they're either telling their friends and family and other people they talk to, I work at a really great company. You should join us. Or they're saying, I hate where I work. It's awful. I'm looking for the exit door. All right. So to think about your current employees, where are they on that spectrum? Because they're either helping you or not helping you. But when I go into if I were to take a job at a new company, yes, there are some very specific things that I would want and that I see that we as individuals really want. I would want to know, again, what does the company say their values are and what is their vision? Where are they going? So, okay, what's the future look like? Do I want to get on this train? And what are you saying your values are? And I'm hoping at the on-site that they truly are living their values. When there is a misalignment there, that's a problem. The second thing I want to know from my leader is clear expectations. What do you expect? How would you define a top performer? Because I want to be a top performer. So tell me what you expect as a top performer. And as an interview question, I always encourage people to ask, so what does success look like in 90 days, in 6 months, so that I know how I can succeed? And I would say the third is both being recognized when I'm doing something right and coached well when I'm doing something wrong so that I can learn. I think there is this aspect of assume positive intent of a leader and of an employee, but we're all going to make mistakes. So are we on the same page? How can I please you? People want to please their leader. They don't want to fail, but clear expectations. I find a lot of times organizations either don't have their vision articulated or where we're going. I don't know where we're going, or don't have their values articulated, or don't give me clear expectations. So I'm kind of operating in the dark, which is frustrating to me as an individual. And then I'm not quite sure I can succeed. Or there is not either the recognition when I do it well or helpful coaching when I don't. And so I would think those are the things that set an employee up for success, which is what I think we want to do when we have a great new employee.
Yeah, it's amazing, right? We see companies spend so much time, money, and effort in recruiting people, and then they bring them on the team, and then there's a disconnect, right? And then you spend all this time and money training people, and then not make enough effort to keep them.
Yeah. And it's little things. I mean, I can't tell you how many times I talk to organizations or individuals who join a company. So interview process goes long and the decision process, and then they finally offer you a job and you show up on the first day and they're not ready for you. It's like, I don't know where we're going to put you. Oh, we don't have a computer for you. Oh, I'm not. Well, as a first impression, that tells me something about the organization, that they're not really caring for me as an employee. They're not ready for me, or that the people who are supposed to be training me or I'm supposed to shadow in the first few days just treat it as a chore. They don't really want to do it. So on top of everything else, I'm feeling less and less valued from the very beginning. So it gets down to just doing the little things well.
Correct. So someone listening to this is saying, okay, I get it. I got to pay attention to it. I got to build a good team and maybe a transparent culture, whatever their vision of a good culture is for their company. Where do you start? Obviously, I think you probably have to baseline, right? And you got to say, okay, where are we today? And then maybe think about where we want to go a year, 2, 3 years down the road. So how do you assess? How do you say, what is my current culture? How do you go about answering that question?
So I want to encourage leaders to articulate what they hope it is, what they want. So that's number one. What is it did you want your culture to be like? I mean, you may or may not agree with Elon Musk, but he's being very clear about this is what it's going to be like to work here. So let's start with that. All right. So what do I want it to be? Then you're absolutely right. I need to do some kind of reconnaissance on what is it? And it is asking, first of all, my leaders, maybe even have managers in staff meetings, being able to have a discussion on, what do we think we're doing well? What are we missing? What should we do better at? What would make this a great place for you to come and work? And to be really willing as the owner to listen to what could be some difficult feedback of where you're not. So you kind of have that, this is what I want it to be. This is current state. This is reality. And reality then helps you kind of action plan to say, okay, what are the things we need to do to make the culture better? So if someone says it feels very competitive around here and not very collaborative. So all right, what are some of the types of things we can do to maybe develop some cross-functional teams to collaborate better? Or someone says, we're always told what we do wrong and we're never told what we do right. All right, that's an indicator like, we need some more recognition. We need people to feel valued about what they're doing. How do we do that in better ways? Whatever the current state opportunities are, that then leads to, all right, here are some action plans. And I would say to a leader who goes kind of through this process, once they get the feedback and determine, here's 3 things we're going to be doing over the next 3 to 6 months, to communicate that broadly to the team, because that says, we asked, you told us, we're listening, and here's some of the things we're going to do about it. So if I'm a team member and I participated in some of that feedback, it's to say, wow, they really listened and they're going to do something about it. And then the key is you really have to do something about it, because if it gets dropped, then that's an indicator to employees too that you weren't really serious. So if you want to improve your organizational culture, exactly what you said, you have to understand current state and make some decisions of a few things. Don't pick a lot. A few things that you are going to really work on over the next 3 to 6 months. Commit to it, really do it. And then employees are going to see that their voice really matters and that you care about the work environment.
I wrote down A-Screen, which is one of the companies that I owned at one point. And I'll start this off and then you can finish it, right? So I bought this company and went in the first day and looked around and went, oh my gosh, did I make a mistake? And then I called Mary and I said, you would not believe the culture here is toxic. The staff on the field, the technicians and the office staff are constantly fighting and blaming each other. We had almost 100% turnover. It seemed like every quarter almost, right? I mean, there were so many people leaving and coming. There was no leadership. There was nothing. And I called Mary, and Mary came into the office. And Mary, take it from there. When I stepped out of the room, and we had all those sticky notes.
We do. Well, but you were very brave. So there is a process that I love to do called a new leader transition. And it brings in the new leader with the whole team. And it's to say, all right, leaders drive culture. So we're going to talk about the current culture. We're going to talk about what you want it to be. Gokul is going to share his leadership style. He is going to share how he defines a top performer. And he is going to share the culture that he wants this to be. And again, a new leader has to be really open to just being able to be themselves in front of a team. But that when you do that, the team feels heard. There is hope kind of infused because they didn't like the culture either. It was the dog eat dog. It's just the way things are done around here. But with a new leader that says, this is your new opportunity for a fresh start. And this is what Gokul expects. Again, day by day, I always say cultures don't get that way overnight. So they're not going to be perfect overnight. But when you make the shift to say, none of us want that current culture. This is the new culture, and we're all going to have to work hard to get there. And I think you did just an incredible job. How long did you have the company?
5 years.
Okay. Over the 5 years, it completely changed. And many of the same people were there. Some leave because when a new culture is articulated, some people are going to say, I don't want that. I sort of like the old dog eat dog. But you make that shift because most of the people really want the new one.
Yeah, I love the exercise where I stepped out of the room, and and I think a lot of people listening can do this. Where you can bring your entire staff, and you as the owner need to step out and just get out of the equation, right? And let the team just speak, without any fear of their bosses or anybody listening. And man, we got some gems out of that meeting. It was hard to swallow, but that was the turning point when I bought that company 5 years ago, right? And let me fast forward. We went from 100% turnover on the technician side. 5 years later was zero, right? I mean, that's where we were, right? When all of this started. So culture really matters. And I think we also reduced our marketing budget then by over 50% over the last 5 years because everybody was happy. They were doing a great job. Our referrals started going through the roof and we had no need to market, So there was a lot of that going on. So culture really does matter. And I think it really does affect the bottom line. So Mary, we could talk about this all day long, but say for someone that's listening, I'd like to keep it short and sweet. I mean, people are running, they're probably listening to this in the car or in the morning commute, say somebody was listening today and said, you know what, I really like to explore this with my company and perhaps start making it better or at least assess where it's, as we leave, what is that one thing that they can start doing today to start on that path?
I would talk, first of all, with your leadership team to have this conversation, to say, what do you think 3 words would be to define our culture? And what are 3 words that we would like it to be? And just start the conversation because it's there. Everybody knows it. It just requires the transparency to start to talk about it and identify maybe even one thing that we want to improve.
Right. And I think that's a great way to start, right? Sometimes you just start with one and then that fixes 5 other things that you did with, right? This has been amazing. So many gems for our viewers on our first podcast ever. So thank you for coming. And this has been a lot of fun. We'll do it again.
You've been listening to Let's Go with Gokul Padmanabhan, a thoughtful listen on creating your business legacy. Subscribe on your preferred podcast app so you don't miss an episode. And if you like what you're hearing, please rate and review. Thanks for listening.